Documentation in this case shows that CN made the highest bid. We're not aware of any evidence at all that it was anything other than sale to the highest bidder. The government may have preferred the terms of that deal. While this is going on, and we've mentioned a couple of times that in order to make it a viable bidding process, they needed at least two bidders. One bidder drops out very early. CP drops out. We're down to CN and Omnitrax, and Omnitrax stays in. There has been a phrase entered into the discussion around this case throughout, the idea of a consolation prize. Did they persuade Omnitrax to stay by telling them that somewhere down the road there'd be a consolation prize for staying in and making this bidding process look viable? Neil, that's an issue in the case.
It is. The defense has alleged that the political masters told their political aides that to keep Omnitrax in, we need to keep them in, and that there may be a consolation prize, which supposedly was the spur line of Roberts Bank. Not a big...
BC Rail owned a railway that runs all the way through British Columbia to Fort Nelson. They also owned a second railway, one that services the Roberts Bank Superport. It's not a long railway, but a very lucrative one, potentially worth a lot of money, and they weren't selling that at the same time. And that, the allegation, and we emphasize that everything we're saying tonight is allegation, because we haven't even got to evidence presented in court in this case. The allegation is that Omnitrax was the consolation prize.
Perhaps. I mean, that's what we've heard the allegation in court.
Let's go to, okay, now the next clip is a lawyer for one of the people that's accused in here. You have three government staffers, all former now, accused of corruption charges. We're not going to go into the charges because they're complicated, and in any event, they haven't been aired in open court either. But the thing you need to know is this is the lawyer for one of the accused. And one of the defense strategies in this case is to shift the blame back to the government, to say anything that our clients did, they were told to do by their political masters who were higher up in the apparatus. And in particular, one of the things they've raised is an event that occurred not long after that sale. So you saw the sale. That's at the end of November 2003. We're still before the date of the raid on the legislature, by the way. So we go to early December 2003 and a reference to a meeting in a restaurant in Vancouver. Here's the lawyer for one of the accused, Michael Bolton.
We don't have complete disclosure of the Villa de Lupo investigation. It's very, very clear from the police reports we do have that were referred to in court this morning that the police viewed that Villa de Lupo meeting as critical. They undertook that massive surveillance in order to document whether Bassey was telling the truth when he said that Minister Collins would meet with Omnitrax to discuss a consolation prize.
The Villa de Lupo meeting is a restaurant in Vancouver.
Posh, upscale Italian restaurant in early December, I think December 11th or so. Gary Collins goes to dinner with the executives of Omnitrax.
Minister of Finance, also in charge of this deal.
That's right. It now turns out there was a massive police surveillance of that meeting at the time, so that the meeting was under surveillance. Was Gary Collins under investigation at the time? That will be established in court. You go back to one of the first clips off the top of the show was Rich Coleman saying a search warrant had been served on the legislature. It did not involve any elected officials. Questions will be asked in the case if it ever gets to that point. Was Gary Collins under criminal investigation at that time? If not, why were the police at that meeting surveying, under surveillance, a meeting between Mr. Collins and officials from Omnitrax?
Gary Collins subsequently left politics, but he's also said he would be happy to have the wiretaps of that meeting in that restaurant played publicly. He's got nothing to hide. He didn't do anything illegal. He made no offers. The other thing might be useful to know is of the accused persons in this case, one was a senior staffer to Judith Reed. You saw her earlier. She was the transportation minister. The other was a senior staffer to Collins, who was then the finance minister. We jump ahead now to the raid.